where we bring friendly neighborhood history to you 24/7, 365, and especially during our live streams every Friday, Saturday night, and Sunday. And welcome to our live stream lecture, where I will be discussing the history at the suggestion of a very good friend of mine who may or may not be watching this, so I want to give him a big shout out. I will be discussing the history of the 4-year term in presidential history and why presidents serve 4 years, and why that is such a huge thing. But I'm also making up for yesterday's Q&A, where we weren't able to have it because I was just running around doing errands here and there, and then I got home and I was like, hey, it's too late for me to do the live stream, so we weren't able to do it yesterday. So I'm really sorry for those of you who were waiting for that live stream yesterday and didn't get it. I'm going to be making up for that. We're going to be discussing the 4-year term of U.S. presidents and how that works, and why the president has 4-year terms. And we are also going to be doing, for the first half hour, a Q&A where you can ask me anything you would like about history and social studies and any related topic, and I'm here to answer it. It's my pleasure. That's what we do here at the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel. We provide you history in a friendly neighborhood manner, and that's what we're best at. So if you like history or social studies, you are in the right place, and we are so glad that you joined us. Please consider liking and subscribing. I have long-form content dropping every Friday and Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tomorrow night, I will be dropping a video on Japanese Christendom. And if you want to learn more about that and learn about it even before 8 p.m. tomorrow night, you can see it on Patreon, where I drop it even earlier than that during the day, when it's freshly made, right, baked out of the oven, no time release, none of that waiting. Get all of your waiting out of the way by joining me on my Patreon there. And I have extra and early content dropping for people who just subscribe. And of course, there's some paywalls and all of that great stuff. But if you like history, you're in the right place, and I'm so glad that you're here. A happy Sunday to you. I hope you guys are enjoying your weekend and taking care. And for the next hour or so, I will be bringing you history, friendly neighborhood manner. For the first half of that, we are making up from a live Q&A that we missed yesterday. So please ask me anything you want about history and social studies and all of that great stuff. Jesus loves me? Oh, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Thank you, Steve. That's very nice of you. But yeah. And he has something better for you. Well, monetization, hopefully. If he has monetization, then I'm in. Because that's our goal this year, is to get monetized by the end of the year. So, yeah. Please, thank you, Steve, for that. And yeah, if you like history, you're in the right place. Consider asking me a question. Ask me anything you'd like about history or social studies, because that's what we bring you, live stream Q&As and live stream lectures. So for the first half hour, I'm making up from yesterday by answering all of your questions about social studies. And then in the last half hour, I will be discussing the 4-year term of U.S. presidents and stuff for that. Yes. Thank you, Steve. So if you have a question or topic related to social studies or history, you're in the right place. Consider dropping it in the chat, and liking and subscribing if you are into social sciences. And by the way, Steve, I do talk a lot about the history of the Christian church, because obviously it's a quintessential part of human history, so that there's a lot of that here that you hopefully will enjoy. I try to do it from as non-biased a perspective as I can, and I try to be as objective as I possibly can. So yeah, you're in the right place, Steve. I'm so glad you found this channel, and I'm so glad that you are here, and I'm glad everybody else is here. If you have a topic or question related to social studies and the humanities, drop it in the chat. Ask me anything at all, anything you'd like, and I'd be happy to answer it for you. So go ahead, we'll do that the first half hour. Sup, Piyush, great to see you. I hope you're having a wonderful day. We have people who join us from all over the world, and I really love that, having people from all over. Salman, hello. Clindy, hello. Good to see you. Tell me something about Indian history. Well, one of my favorite phases of Indian history is the Mughal Empire, which dominated India during the 16th century and 17th century, and basically was in charge officially until the British took over the country in 1858. And the Mughal were somehow, because they were very, very militarily strong and had a strong centralized government and bureaucracy, able to keep the Hindus and the Muslims on the same page and show the respect to them, and Sikhism actually rose. So the 3 major religions of India were able to be very peaceful and understanding of one another during the time of the Mughal Empire. And the Mughal Empire, despite being Islamic, understood that the majority of the Indian population in the Indian subcontinent, which included Pakistan and Bangladesh, by the way, was mainly Hindu. And so they showed a lot of deference to the Hindus who were living in there, despite being a Sunni Muslim empire. Shivaji, he's the guy who created the Maharaja Shatabdi Shivaji. He is the one who created the Maratha Empire, which was a Hindu confederacy within the Mughal Empire that swear their loyalty and fealty to them. So I do know a little bit about India history, and I love Indian history. So Salam and Piyush, you are in the right place. I love learning about the history of people from the East and all of that great stuff. Um, Gagic, how old was Jesus when he was killed on the cross? According to the biblical records, the Gospels, the 4 biographies written about Jesus, and I do consider them to be historical accounts, not because of the spiritual stuff, but because basically every historical text of the ancient world had spiritual stuff, mythological occurrences, miracles, and the like happening in them. But they seem to be a relatively reliable account of the events of the life of Jesus of Nazareth. Now, I don't call him Jesus Christ because Christ is the term Messiah, which is what the Jews do not believe in and only the Christians do. So I show a lot of deference to and toleration to a lot of people, so I refer to him as Jesus of Nazareth. And according to the gospel narratives, which all seem to be historical accounts for the most part, he died when he was 33 years old. He started his public ministry when he was 30, and he went through 3 rounds of different Jewish festivals and traditions that usually come about once a year. So he probably was about the age of 33, although one of the Gospels, I think it's the Gospel of John, seems to indicate that he might have been a lot sooner. It might have only been a year long that he was preaching and had his 12 disciples and all of that great stuff. So, yeah. Chris, which topic did you miss? Because I want to talk about it, whatever topic you missed. So if you like what I'm talking about, if you love history, you're in the right place. Consider liking and subscribing. And Steve, who is a new friendly neighborhood historian, somebody who liked and subscribed, is asking, when did segregation end and did it hurt the black community? Segregation basically officially ended in 1964 with the Civil Rights Act passed by President Lyndon Johnson. And it didn't hurt the black community, obviously, to be able to share schools and facilities that were usually of better quality than their own with white people. What hurt the black community after that was an epidemic of fatherlessness, over-policing, and crime. So, and that continues to be a problem. Freshly Wild is a friendly neighborhood historian. Good to see you. Good afternoon. I'm so sorry for yesterday. I really wanted to do my live stream Q&A yesterday, but I just had chores and errands, and then all of a sudden I look up and it's 3:30. And I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do this today. So, very sorry about that, guys. But I am always here every Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, Saturdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, and Sundays at 4 p.m. Eastern to bring you friendly neighborhood history. Fridays and Saturdays is an AMA, where you can ask me anything you'd like about social studies. And then Sundays I do my live stream lecture where I talk about history in a friendly neighborhood way to all of you. Salam. Salman is asking, brother, you know everything in Indian history. I love you. Well, I love you too. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe and all that good stuff. It really helps the algorithm. Piyush is saying, my recommendation for you is to watch Chava movie. It's all about Indian history. I will gladly do that. Just put the movie in the chat and I will be happy to watch it. Watching historical movies, documentaries, docudramas, series, all of that stuff is so important to becoming a cohesive historian. It's not just reading books, and obviously enjoying the content that I have here. Every Friday and Monday, I have long-form videos dropping at 8 p.m. Eastern, and I have short-form videos every day. So we're bringing you friendly neighborhood history 24/7, 365 is what I like to say. And Steve, I just answered that question, so I'm going as fast as I possibly can through the information. Hello from Turkey. I read all the 4 books, but I think Quran is one of the best solution for all your questions. Kadir, well, thank you very much for that. I very much appreciate that. And obviously the Quran is an extremely important and powerful book, and it's changed the lives of billions of people, so I can't argue with you there. Just like Steve was saying, to read the Gospel of John and embrace Jesus Christ as the Messiah, I understand exactly where you guys are coming from. Guyan, Pope Francis, yes, very sick. Has he passed? I hope he hasn't passed. That'd be awful. Just what the Catholic Church needs when it's going through all of the crisis and turmoil that it's been going through for the last few years. They get a pope that a lot of people like, and he's about to pass away. So, Gaigik, you know Qin Shi Huangdi, the Emperor of China, and how he taught people about legalism? Yes, he basically made Confucianism the law of the land for the Chinese during his short reign from 221 BC to 210 BC. The Qing Empire is the first official empire in Chinese history. I am doing a short series on that right now, so check out my videos there. But I talk about Shi Huangdi, I talk about the Terracotta Warriors, and I talk about how he basically decided that the Great Wall of China was his most important building project, and how the Qin dynasty changed China forever. So Gagik, I know a lot about Shi Huangdi. By the way, Shi Huangdi just means great ruler or emperor. It's not actually his name. I refer to him as the George Washington of China because he basically put the Chinese empire on the map. And from then on, China was an empire. And then you have the Han dynasty right after him. I've got videos on all the dynasties up to the Han. My next video will be on the Tang dynasty, and that should come out in the next couple of days. So, Yusma, great to see you. Hello, I came to this channel 2 weeks ago. Well, I am so glad that you are back. It's great to see you. Consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Steve, I do my absolute best. Thank you so much. That's so sweet of you to say. I'll put that, I will pin that. You're saying that I'm gifted, and I will take that as a compliment. Yusma is not, that's what I learned. First World War was not in 20th century. Yes, that was my live stream 2 weeks ago. I'm very proud of that live stream lecture. That's every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that is where I discuss how basically I don't think that the First World War was in the 20th century with World War I in Germany in 1914 and 1918. I think that it was the 7 Years' War of 1754 to 1763. Now that's not 7 years, but that's when the fighting started in America. There was fighting in America, India, and Europe with all of the colonies and millions of people involved. So I believe that was the First World War. And like the other two world wars, it was caused by aggressive Germans. So there you go. Ryan, so great to see you. Ryan is a longtime friendly neighborhood historian. I'm so glad that you're here. And yes, I have the smoking jacket, my Hugh Hefner look. I'm in my new studio that we've been building. I've been getting all of the equipment up to date and all that great stuff. Great stuff. Freshly Wild, per capita, blacks are incarcerated more than ever counterparts. Yes, that is absolutely true. Men are more incarcerated than women in this country. I'm from America, by the way, if you didn't know. African Americans are incarcerated at heavier rates, Asians at heavier rates. The lowest rates tend to be among Asian Americans from the Far East. Yeah, no, I don't pass up the comments. If you have a question, I promise I will get to it. I'm just scrolling through my feed, and I might have to go over there and charge my phone because I'm on low battery in a minute. So we'll see about that. You're very, very welcome, Gagi. I hope you do a great job. If you want to pass your test, like and subscribe because I have a lot of information on the Qin Dynasty and Shi Huangdi and all other historical information. If you want to learn about the monarchs of England, I've got you there. I've got a series on that. It's a playlist. The U.S. presidents got a series on that. Russian czars got a playlist on that. Now the Chinese emperors and Roman emperors. I already did the Roman emperors. I'm doing the Chinese emperors, and then after that, I'm going to see what the channel wants, but I might be doing French monarchies. And if you are considering giving me some more support on my Patreon, for those who become friendly historians on my Patreon, which it does have a paywall, I will say that, you guys can learn about the First Ladies because I'm doing a series on First Ladies. You can also join the Patreon for free where I have early content and bonus content dropping every day. Any plans of a podcast discussing some history? I recall you admired my history knowledge too, but you for sure are far ahead of me. Yes, you smile. I remember that you have a lot of amazing knowledge, and I really appreciate that. And I think you and I disagreed, but it was so awesome to talk back and forth in the chat with you. So thank you so much. I would love to do a podcast at some point. I'm hoping that this live stream lecture that I do on Sundays will evolve into the Friendly Historian podcast or whatever, Friendly Neighborhood History podcast. So yeah, and it absolutely does. And Rodolfo, my wonderful moderators here, show some love to Rodolfo. And Rodolfo, if you know the social media handles, could you put them in the chat, please? I have great moderators like Em and Rodolfo and Simon the Bunny who do a great job bringing the channel forward, putting in the social media handles so that you guys don't have to go looking, but they are on the YouTube page in case you want to look at that. Talking about the aggressive Germans, Hessians were feared cavalrymen that helped American freedom fighters. No, actually, the Hessians were hired by the British to help them. And George Washington defeated the Hessians at Trenton and Newark in 1776 when he crossed the Delaware in that very famous painting that's completely fictionalized. Rodolfo is asking, why is the P word so prevalent? Well, the P word, adult film content, has been around for all of human history, and it's understandable. Human beings have attraction to each other. I mean, some people find me to be handsome for some reason, and some people have even suggested that I do this with a robe and nothing else on, which I don't completely understand because I'm a serious historian, but your compliments are very nice. So, I mean, people love sex. They love physical connections. They love physical relations. And people who oftentimes want to enhance that or who don't participate in it want to view it and enjoy it. And so if you look at ancient art in India or China or Egypt or Rome, or frescoes like in Pompeii, like they've discovered, where the Mount Vesuvius exploded, you will find people having sex with each other. It's just very common. Nudes are very common, and people engaging in fornication, very common in all sorts of history. So the truth of the matter is, one of the most famous, we're talking about Indian history, one of the most famous books of all time, and one of the oldest books of all time, is a Hindu-inspired text called the Karma Sutra, where people know what the Karma Sutra is because it refers to your ability to be good in the sack. But the Karma Sutra is actually a real book written by the Indians, by ancient Indian Hindus, who talk about how to have proper relations and suggesting different positions for those relations. So that's almost the P word, if you think about it. So, but great question. And Rodolfo, basically, you know what? That would be a great live stream lecture topic, the history of sex. And that would take me a few hours to discuss because it's so powerful in human history. In no way affiliate, great to see you. Listening while you grill out. I'm so glad you're grilling out. What are you grilling? Yusma is saying I can visit certain places in Germany and film if you need that. That would be incredible. Thank you so much. I love Germany. It's a beautiful country. For telling future history, will Elon overshadow Trump? Great question. I do hypotheticals, and I use my historical knowledge to inform me about current affairs and events, and I do talk about that. I have an entire series about the U.S. presidential election. You guys can go back and watch, where I try to address it from an objective as possible, of a perspective as possible, because I didn't believe that the media was doing that, so I did the media's job for them. So if you don't like the mainstream media and the way they covered the 2024 election, look back on how I covered it, and I predicted Trump would win. I didn't think it would be as big as he did, or bigly, but I did predict that he would win. I don't think Elon will overshadow Trump. I think that at some point there will be some curtailing. If Trump really feels that Elon, look at Trump's ego. If Trump really feels that Elon is really getting too far and getting too much power and controlling him, then he will curtail him. Trump has too much of an ego not to let that happen. So, welcome to the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel. If you're just joining us, this is we're doing an impromptu Q&A to make up from yesterday, and I will be doing a live stream lecture in a few minutes discussing the history of the 4-year term. Great topic suggested to me from my good friend Eric. You are my new favorite YouTuber. I will watch you whenever you can. Well, I really appreciate that. It's so sweet of you to say. And Geek, I'm going to pin that. That is today's pinned message. In no way affiliated. Everything: steak, chicken, and chops. Wow, you're going to have a wonderful barbecue. I really wish I was coming. Kamala wasn't convincing. Yeah, there was a lack of preparation by the Democrats in this country, in the United States, that the more left-wing parties all throughout the world seem to be struggling. I just read that the AfD gained a lot of seats in Germany, so the German political map is shifting hard to the right. Angela Merkel's center-right party is also growing in popularity, while the Social Democrats, the left, the Labor, the Democrats, whatever you want to call them, they've dropped, they've tanked. So there seems to be the left in retreat and the right on the rise. You've got Javier Milei in Argentina, you've got Netanyahu in Israel, and you have Trump now in the United States, and he's kind of directing that. And it looks like the conservatives in Canada and the Reform Party in the UK are really threatening the liberal establishments of the governments of Justin Trudeau and Keir Starmer, respectively. I can never say his name right. So the problem was, you can't possibly this is why a lot of Democrats feel in this country that Kamala deserves another chance and she deserves to run in 2028. And that's why a lot of Democrats think she's their person, because they feel that she didn't get a good shot. She got in late in the election cycle. She raised a huge amount of money, ended up in debt somehow, but was not able to really come across to the American people and was kind of hightailing it as fast as she could at a breakneck pace. And she was very impressive at that. She ran a hell of a campaign. But I don't think anyone was going to beat Trump after the assassination attempt and after Biden dropped out. I just don't think anyone could beat Trump. And Biden seems to think that he could have beaten Trump because Biden and Harris, like a lot of presidents and vice presidents, don't like each other at all. In fact, here's a history tidbit for all of you. And I'll talk about this in a minute. In the original presidential elections, the president didn't get to pick his VP. And I don't think Biden picked Harris. I think Biden was told to pick Harris, or at least had an idea of picking Harris because she was a woman of color, and that's what he wanted. But the two of them did not like each other, and it was well reported that they did not like each other. And that's okay. That's happened before in history. Don't freak out. Just like when Biden pardoned his son, everybody freaked out. Who wouldn't pardon their son, or something like that, in that situation? Lincoln pardoned his sister-in-law. So there's stuff like that. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling. But yeah, Kamala Harris did not come across as a convincing candidate. And I think there was a lot of people who felt that there was a lot of forced things and that they were kind of pandering from the Democrats, and that's why she lost. And Trump, everyone can be fake being nice, but who would fake being brutish and rude like Trump is? A lot of people are like, yeah, I get it. She's nice, but he's real. And that's why I think he won. So just my perspective about that. Let me see here. Freshly Wild. Remember, Elon is slated to be the first ever trillionaire. I don't know if he's going to get there. He's at like 400 billion right now, but he's really struggling. And I think Mansa Musa, the ancient African king of the Mali Empire, actually was the first trillionaire. He just didn't have that much, but in today's money, he would be the first trillionaire. Affiliate. Kamala had no base of support. She was weirdly installed. Yes, she didn't have people voting for her or supporting her. She was just kind of thrown into the mix. She has set a precedent, however, that when if a president drops out in the middle of a race, the vice president comes in and is the default candidate, even without a primary process. Hubert Humphrey did this for Lyndon Johnson in 1968, by the way. Do you think Sabir Kodair, great to see you. Do you think Elon's Sorry, someone was calling me, and when someone calls me, it always mutes it. So sorry about that. Hopefully, you guys can hear me now. Is everybody good? Everybody can hear me now? Good. Um, I was just answering. I was reading Sabir's question. Do you think Elon's Doge should audit APAC for bribery and overthrowing our government? Kennedy tried to get them to register, but was killed. The Israel Political Action Committee. I'm not sure what you mean. I think he's gonna. I think he's auditing everybody. Let me see here. I think the pardon was overblown because it covering a decade, not a crime. Yeah, that was what made a lot of people were worried about and raised their minds about Bryson. It's a very good point. Okay. Yeah, now we're good. Great to see. So, welcome to the Friendly Neighborhood History channel. If you're just joining us, we bring you history in a friendly neighborhood manner. If you like history, you're in the right place. Consider liking and subscribing or asking a question or dropping a topic in the chat. And this is going so well, I might just skip the live stream lecture and just go full Q&A if you guys want to for the next 40 minutes or so. I really enjoy all the great stuff we're able to do here on the channel. I'm gonna have to move in a minute so that I can charge my phone properly because I have this really nice new recliner and it feels great and it reverses and it's just so good. But it doesn't have, it has a USB and I use that for my light behind me so I can't charge my phone from it. So anyways, and I'm coming towards you. But yeah, if you have a question or comment regarding history or a topic you'd like me to talk about, drop it in the chat. Like Gayahan has a question. What's the potential lecture topic? I was going to talk about presidential terms. I really didn't have a topic, and my friend suggested at the last minute, so that's what I was going to discuss. But we don't have to. If you guys have good questions and the conversation keeps rolling, we can just go for the next 35 minutes or so talking about history, because that's what I love to do. So, yeah, and if you are like Gagik, where you think this is one of your new favorite YouTube channels, consider liking and subscribing. And there's a lot of history information on this channel, guys, series and all sorts of great stuff that we've done. And there's more stuff in my Patreon, and there's more stuff on my Substack. If you want to not hear my voice but read my articles, consider joining the Substack. So, like the live, subscribe for more. Absolutely, Kevin is 100% right. There is more. There's a lot more. So, does anyone have a question or topic they would like to discuss related to history or social studies? Because I'm here to answer all of your queries around that. Yeah. We're in our new studio, by the way. We were forced to relocate, unfortunately, a month ago. Some of you can maybe put the pieces together. Some of you know. But I had to do one of the live streams in my smoking jacket, but in my car. And now we're in the new studio. And it's just so nice to be in here. And it's a really great place. So I'm really enjoying it. It's kind of an open air place, so the acoustics are great. It's a perfect place to talk about history with all of you wonderful people. So, does anyone have a question or comment or topic they'd like to bring up related to history and social studies? Because I would love to discuss it with you guys. And if not, I can start moving into the live stream lecture. I'm going to move my phone right now so that I can charge it. So just give me a second here. I'll take you for a little tour of the studio. There's a door. We use that to go in and out of things. Yeah, you've got the room around me. You've got all of the different accoutrements. I've got a sofa here. So I've got that chair, but I've also got this nice sofa I sit in. Oh, we're talking about the U.S. election a lot today. I like it. I welcome it. How big of a factor, how strong of a factor was woke in the election? I think a lot of people are very scared of the idea of what they call woke ideology and critical theory. And I think that critical theory and cultural Marxism have really, really scared a lot of Americans. They've become a new bogeyman. And I think Trump capitalized on that. Yeah, that door does keep panhandlers at bay. That's very true, freshly. But yeah, Rodolfo, I think that a lot of people were very worried about woke, what they call or perceive as woke ideology. And so because of that, I think a lot of Americans really went out for Trump because of that. So, well, he's doing what he can to curtail what he thinks is woke ideology, so I can't fault him there. A lot of people criticizing Trump, and I understand why and where they're coming from, but he is doing what he said he was going to do, and that's kind of refreshing in some way because presidents don't normally do that. Sorry, just need some water. I'm a little parched. But yeah, any questions, comments, concerns, topics you guys would like to bring up related to social? How opposed are gays with T? With the T? You mean Trump? He's actually got more support from the LGBTQ community than most Republicans do. Trump has distinguished himself as not really caring about what people on the right call traditional values, issues, or with the trans. How opposed are gays with the trans? I don't know. There seems to be an alliance. Obviously, you've got LGBTQ, and you got lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender, and queer people, and things like that. But you've also got, so there's a lot going on there. There's some people who are okay with it. There are some people who are not okay with it. I think that the previous generation dealt with the question of gay people and can they marry and can they do this or that. This generation, my generation, the Gen Zers, Alpha, they're going to deal with transgender individuals and what happens with transgender individuals and how do we understand transgender individuals and how do we help them and all of that stuff. Gaia Han, good question. Was Trump's 2024 win more of a factor of dedicated R voters or more undecided people voting Republican? It always comes down to undecided. It's the 5% of people in the middle who can't make up their minds and seemingly won't. And I think a lot of people felt that Trump promised to fix the economy. He demagogued them into winning. And he hasn't fixed the economy yet, but I really hate these people who are saying, oh, he hasn't fixed inflation, he hasn't done this or that. Well, he's only been president for a month. And nobody, from what I remember, was doing this when Biden was elected. And maybe people on the right were, I don't know. But give a president time. We'll see what Trump does. He's already got some economic plans. He feels that if he can unleash the American Energy Corps and start huge amounts of drilling for oil and natural gas, he can make America energy independent. And that will cut down on the cost of transportation. That will cut the price of gas. And there will be more access to these resources and more easy access. He also has a twofold plan because by imposing tariffs, he will incentivize domestic manufacturing, which will also cut down on transportation costs and make goods more made in America and more readily available. These are idealistic, but these are what he wants to do. So I think there's a twofold nature to this. And he feels that with DOGE cutting the size of government, he can also cut down the deficit and the budget and the debt that America has accumulated, $36 trillion, by the way, which is a lot. It's almost insurmountable, by basically paying people, by basically cutting corruption or what he sees as corruption, and also putting on tariffs as basically a new form of tax. And Trump is wanting to remove certain types of taxing, like taxes on Social Security and tips and stuff like that. And he's listening to a lot of libertarians who are telling him to get rid of all taxes altogether. And around tax season, I will make a video about why April 15th is the deadline for taxes, where the heck did the IRS come from, and why do Americans pay income taxes when income tax is actually a relatively new thing in American history. We went half of the country's history almost without paying income taxes. So Gayahan, to answer your question, I think Trump won the election because of those undecided voters swinging Republican. I think the promise of fixing the economy and stabilizing the border really sunk through people, and I don't think Kamala Harris was convincing enough on any of those issues. And when she started borrowing those topics from Trump, people were like, well, why would we vote for you? We've had 4 years of you. Kamala Harris lost because she was unable to detach herself from Joe Biden. And the election, in many ways, in retrospect, was Trump's to lose because he does these interesting things where he gets really popular all of a sudden for some reason, and then he says something really stupid, and everybody just rolls their eyes. It used to be people would just be moaning in anger and frustration, and now we're just 10 years into this man, and we're used to it. Sorry, I'm gonna take a drink of water. If you like what you're learning about, this is the Friendly Neighborhood History, where we talk about history in a friendly and neighborhood manner, and also other topics related to the humanities, including current affairs and politics, geopolitics. Consider liking and subscribing and all that great stuff. Rodolfo is saying, allegedly LGB wants a divorce from trans. I've heard about this. We'll see. Bryson, I don't think people realize how large the silent majority of conservatives is. Definitely decided this election. Yeah, there are a lot of people who lean to the right. Biden also didn't say he would fix inflation day one like Trump did. Well, but he did say he was going to fix COVID, and he didn't fix COVID. There are some things that the president can't fix. And I really, really don't like these apologists for any president who come out and say on day one, he's making this promise. Isn't this amazing? He will do this. And then on day 50, when it hasn't happened, are saying he can't do this overnight. And then on day 200, when it hasn't happened, and years into his term when it hasn't happened, say, you know, don't force the president to do this. Don't put pressure on him to do this. And then eventually they start saying, well, he can't do this. Well, what is it? Which one was it? Were you just blind and ignorant? Or can he do it and he just isn't capable? Or he's just stupid? I don't know. Everybody does this with every president. Obama was going to fix all of the economic woes from the Great Recession. Didn't quite happen. Biden was going to fix the COVID issue. Not really fixed. Trump's going to fix inflation. Guess what? History is undefeated, guys. That's why I respect it so much, and that's why I do this channel. Harsonet, great to see you. You've got your shout out. Hars is one of the best people on this channel. Always has great questions and stuff. So is Spartacus, by the way. Hey, did my question, a 8 comment, go through? No, I don't know. In no way affiliated. Put it in the chat again and I will answer it. No tax on SS is brilliant. We'll see. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. So Social Security money is from the government. Like a lot of Americans, I hate paying taxes. And for me, and I know a lot of people in all over the world hate paying taxes, but taxes are part of how we live in an adjusted, normalized society. For me, the two taxes that make no sense are capital gains tax and property taxes. Capital gains tax. You have this money that's already been taxed, you invest it, and make money off of that, and the government does nothing to help you with that, and they take some of it. That doesn't make any sense to me. Capital gains tax doesn't make any sense to me. Property taxes also don't make sense to me because you buy a plot of land and you pay taxes, and you pay taxes on the income that you earn in that land. But because it exists in a country, you have to pay property taxes on it. It doesn't make sense. You own it. Maybe you could pay taxes when you're doing your mortgage or the whatever. But when you own a home, it doesn't make any sense to me. Nathan, but the trade deficit increased in his first term as well as the debt. Yes, that's true. Trump spent like a drunken millionaire and he is except he doesn't drink. He spent a lot when he was president. It was obviously, and I mean, he spent a huge amount on COVID. And he does the trade deficit because he wants to do these trade wars and nobody wants to do it. Spartacus, then cut taxes too, which is a perfect recipe for inflation. So good on Trump. Yeah. He's going to continue his own tax cuts from 2018 is what I'm told. Bryson, Trump seems pretty pro 2A with a stacked Supreme Court. Do you think he can repeal anything like the NFA? I don't know about the NFA. I don't know exactly what the NFA is. I think you're referring to weapons and firearms. What a lot of people on the right are hoping is that Trump puts in national conceal carry, basically allowing people, no matter what state they live in, to go to any state with a gun or have a gun on them and be able to and just walk around and have it concealed, but have the ability to do that because the Second Amendment doesn't restrict people's ability to do that, according to conservatives. Harsonet, great question. Speaking of a Supreme Court, do you lean as a constitutionalist? I mean, I love the Constitution. I think it's amazing, but I understand. I mean, nobody looks at the Bible and says, in a Bible study, for instance, and says, well, this is what it meant then, and it doesn't mean anything for us now, or it only means this then. They apply it to their own situations and circumstances, and any document is like that. To treat the Constitution at that high of a level doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Saber, can you talk about the COINTELPRO program? If I am correct, that is the program by the very, very, very notoriously nasty FBI director J. Edgar Hoover in the late 60s. Basically, the FBI sent a bunch of informants and agents to basically infiltrate and antagonize and hype up left-wing groups so that they would act out and Hoover then could crush them for... basically, they tried to over-radicalize these radical left-wing groups so that they would commit acts of terror and vandalism and basically allow the FBI and local police authorities to crush them. It was also to find out exactly how influenced these left-wing groups were by places like the Soviet Union or North Vietnam when we were in the Vietnam War. It was all an effort to basically eradicate communism from the inside. And it was an awful program because it basically it did all of these infiltrations and it didn't find anything, and it led to a lot of problems. And there's even evidence that the Manson family may have been victims of it. Freshly, how can you talk about how in Japan's history they have been aggressors towards China, particularly with their navy history historically? I don't know if that's fully true. There have been many moments in Japan's history where they have been extremely aggressive. Japan's an interesting, just such an interesting land, so amazing in so many ways. Their history is fascinating to me. And one of the things that's fascinating to me is that the Japanese go from either one to the other. They're either horribly rigid and on their own in their own country, very nationalistic, or they are extremely aggressive. World War III, or as you call it, World War II, is a great example of this. The Japanese love to have many moments in their history where they go out from the archipelago and they do everything they can to basically conquer as much as they can. The Russo-Japanese War, the Sino-Japanese War. There's been many times where Japan has basically used its navy or its manpower, because Japan is an overpopulated country, to bully the Chinese. And they had better military tactics. They were more industrialized and they were more united, and they were able to basically defeat China formidably in two different wars, the First and Second Sino-Japanese War, the second one occurring during World War III. So, Spartacus, what's moving the goalpost? Gaia Han, I like American term limits. It makes it more fun and discourages political stagnation. American politics are always molding and changing, and it's cool. Yes, absolutely. And Washington, there's nothing in the Constitution originally that says a president only can be there for this long. There are no term limits on congressmen. There are no term limits on Supreme Court justices, and there need to be. And that's a movement that's growing both on the right and on the left. And it's always interesting. The party in power wants term limits. Or sorry, the party not in power wants term limits, but the party in power doesn't. And the Republicans aren't saying anything about it right now, and they really need to. They would win a lot of clout if they were willing to say, yeah, some of our people have been here too long. And the president has two term limits, but it's basically this cult of the presidency in the last century, where the president has become the most important individual in the country and not the Congress as the founders intended. So if we actually put enough influence in this country on the founding fathers and people like that, then we would actually, and on the idea of Congress being one of the most important institutions, then we would get term limits for Congress people and probably term limits for Supreme Court justices. So yeah. Yusef, hello. Hope you're still here. Great to see you. Welcome to the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel, where we talk history in a friendly neighborhood manner. What state am I from? I don't say exactly what state I am. I always do Eastern Standard Time. I'm very, very shielded on a lot of things. I really didn't even want to say I was an American for a long time. Not because I was ashamed of it necessarily, but because I am ashamed of some of the things America's done. You can't be proud of all of it. You're proud to be an American, but on some things you can't be. But I was, but I like to keep my privacy. Nobody knows my name. My moderators, a lot of them don't know my name. In no way affiliated. If you had to transport yourself to any time or place to live out the rest of your life, what would you choose? Oh, geez. Paris in the late 1800s. You've got all these incredible inventions. You have moving pictures on the rise. You have the rudiments of the telephone, and you just got all of these electric lights going on, and you have the beautiful artwork of Renoir. You have these Paris cafes. You have the can-can dancers. It's just an amazing place to live. And the French Empire is proud and prosperous at that time. Alfeo, do you think Newsom is done? Newsom is the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, and I don't think he helped himself with his response to the fires. So, yeah. I think he is done. Harsenet's asking, do you think Henry Kissinger gets a unnecessary bad rep? I think he gets it's weird with Kissinger. People are very, very polarizing. They either hate him or they love him. And I think he's somewhere in the middle, like almost all historical figures. No, not all, but almost all. I think he has some good things that he did. I think he actually figured out a way for the United States to win the Vietnam War with the Paris Treaty of 1973. But he didn't. But obviously the CIA's interference in Central American and African governments, just so that communists could be prevented from rising to power, hurt the local peoples in those countries tremendously. So yeah. Nathan, how on earth is the Citizens United Judgment even possible? I don't know what that is, so I can't tell you. Saber, can you talk about the benefits of bringing greenbacks back and getting rid of the Federal Reserve as a private entity? Yes. So basically, the Federal Reserve was created as the national bank, although it's a private organization, by Woodrow Wilson in 1913. Or 14, I think, and it basically serves the purpose of monitoring the nation's currency and interest rates. And greenbacks were what local banks gave that could be used all across the country before then. And there was this huge issue of gold or silver standard. And ever since Richard Nixon in the 1970s took the United States off the silver standard, basically the standard for the American dollar is the American dollar, which is a crummy standard to stand on. So, Xavier, we'll see. Mayonnaise on a hot dog. Can you talk about the first and second Congolese wars? I know a little bit about those. Obviously, the Belgians owned the Congo during the. In fact, it wasn't just the Belgians at first. And a guy named Leopold, the king of the Belgians, gained the Belgian Congo in the late 1800s, and basically terrorized and tortured the people who lived there, and made their lives absolute hell. And then eventually the Congolese went independent, and I was just talking about communist dictatorships and how they were overthrown by the U.S. government. I think Kissinger was the CIA director when this happened, but Patrice Lumumba was the first elected president of the Congo in 1961 when the Belgians left, and a revolution had broken out, and then a counter revolution broke out against him, and the CIA had him killed, basically, so that he could be overthrown. They did the same thing in South Vietnam, by the way. I don't know about the Second Congolese War, but I believe both of the wars were based on political instability and interference from the Soviets and the U.S. during the Cold War, when everyone wanted to be a communist or not a communist. Yes. And yes, please like and subscribe. Thank you, Freshly Wild. Harsonet, do you think Thomas Jefferson's attacked Alexander Hamilton unnecessary? I don't know if they ever came to blows. They hated each other. No. I think that they had different visions for the United States. Jefferson wanted a small government. Hamilton wanted a more expansive government. Bryson, I'm glad Mitch McConnell is leaving after 8 terms. Completely ridiculous. 8 terms in Congress is 48 years, by the way. That's too long. This is the Hugh Hefner of history. Yes, I'd like to think that. I've got the smoking jacket. He gave it to me on his deathbed and said, take good care and love history, which is what I say every time I sign off. Gagik, I appreciate that. Wingstop's excellent. If only we were all at, who was it? I think it was in no way affiliated. Someone was doing a barbecue, and their barbecue sounded delicious. So, Harsonet, you look like a guy from the Mid-Atlantic, like North Carolina or Virginia. Am I right? Nope. Keep guessing. I'm not going to say if you're right, even if you guess it right. Who actually owns the Federal Reserve? We don't know. Technically speaking, it's a private bank that contracts with the U.S. government. I'm trying to see who is the chairman of the Fed. It's not Ben Bernanke anymore. It's Stephen something or other, and there's a lot of questions about who owns the Federal Reserve and what happens if they get audited. Both presidents, Harding wanted to get rid of it because he thought it was a progressive, useless tool from Wilson administration. So Harding was the president, Warren Harding, after Woodrow Wilson, who's created the Fed. And in the early 20s, Harding wanted to get rid of it. He died of a heart attack in 1923. And interestingly enough, 40 years later, John F. Kennedy, the U.S. president, who we all know and a lot of us really love, wanted to get rid of the Fed, and he was assassinated before that could happen. He wanted to audit them. And a lot of people think that if Trump, because he's doing all of these auditings, he wants to audit the IRS, Fort Knox, the Pentagon, and he's doing it indirectly for Elon Musk and the Doge associates. But a lot of people think that Trump wants to, if he audits the Fed, he will be killed. I don't know if it's a coincidence that these two men died in office. Kennedy and his death has become more and more mysterious than ever before, and a lot of people are saying now that they're releasing the Kennedy files that Lyndon Johnson is to blame for his death and the CIA, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. Spartacus, because the American Senate is getting as bad as the Roman Senate was, they are more concerned with the coin in their purse than concerns the masses. It's still all about the money, not the people. Yes, and that was a fear of the founding fathers, and that's why they put in checks and balances in different forms, not just in their government, but in their Congress. That's why you have a House and a Senate. And they copied the Roman Senate, which was supposed to be the older, more experienced chamber, and the Assembly became the House of Representatives. So they copied the Romans, the Greeks, and the British, and that's how the Americans put together their system that works now. But yes, as corrupt founders were extraordinarily worried about corruption and greed. Freshly Wild. Steve, the Federal Reserve is purely fiscal regulatory agency that's slated to be independent of the three. It is. We don't know how independent it is, though. Spartacus, term limits would be great, but will never happen due to corruption. Yeah, it's very possible that you are right, because they're going to because who would want to limit his own ability to have power? Yes, and please like and subscribe, by the way, if you haven't done so already. Steve, do you believe Elon will find Fort Knox stocked full of gold? I don't know. I think they will. I don't think there's going to be any sort of weird conspiracy. In no way affiliated. That's who's grilling. So hopefully we could have all of that. But did you hear? I'm not too far behind the chat this time. Usually when we have a lot of great questions from wonderful people like you guys, we are not able to I'm not able to catch up. Sorry. We're not able to, I'm way behind on the chat, but I'm doing my best to be on top of it as much as I can. Did you hear about the current situation in the Congo and Rwanda? Rwanda is pretty much taking swaths of land from the Congo to guarantee a minority in the Eastern Congo protection from the Congolese. Interesting. So there's Joseph Kofi, or Jacob Kofi, and the Children's Army. There's a lot of terrorism. There's radical Islamic groups in Central Africa, like I believe Boko Haram is in Central Africa, and Nigeria. They're doing a lot. Nigeria is actually the fastest growing country population-wise in the world and will be the largest country population-wise by 2100, fun fact. But yeah, there's a lot going on in Africa right now. And that actually, those boundaries were set up by the Belgians, by the British, by all the Europeans. So the boundaries for the Africans are actually totally unstable and unreliable. Sabir, why was Yitzhak Rabin as an intel officer during their time in Texas during JFK? I don't know. I don't know enough about him. But yeah, sounds Israeli. In the future, do you agree that Western Europe will turn into insurgency wars from Islamic extremists? I think that they're already starting to happen. I think they're trying to do it politically right now. They're trying to settle that issue politically before it goes any farther, and that's what the far right in Europe's trying to do. Has crony capitalism taken over the U.S. that we have reached a point where the majority of people can't make independent choices since the media all are corporate owned? Yeah, I think there's a lot of and this is what horrified me so much. And when I saw that Joe Biden dropped out of the presidential election, I knew it was time to speak on it and get involved in it because it was so historical. And then I decided to just keep up with the election and do the best I possibly could to talk about it. So, fact of the matter is, Nathan, crony capitalism has had its fingers in many more pies than just the media. But yeah. Saber, who was the guy that tried to shut down the Federal Reserve but died of a heart attack? Harding, Warren G. Harding, the 29th president of the United States, 1921 to 1923. Watch my series. I've got a lot on Warren Harding there. I have an entire series on U.S. presidents. Kevin, do you know much about gypsies, specifically around Romania pre-World War II, and how one could track that pre-1940? They were considered their own distinct group, and they had large numbers of families and children, and the Nazis hated them and wanted to destroy them because they weren't pure Aryans. They hated Slavs, Jews, and the gypsies. And gypsies is actually an outdated and pretty much is almost a slur at this point for the Romani people, but they were basically their own distinct type of Eastern European people, different from Slavs. They weren't Romanians exactly, but they were from Romania and other areas. Do you agree globalization at the end of the day is terrible and disastrous? No, not necessarily. That's almost a political opinion. I don't give political opinions. I try to give as unbiased a perspective as I possibly can. When it comes to history, I'll share all of my topics. You're very welcome, Kevin, by the way. I'll share all my topics and opinions, but when it comes to politics and geopolitics, I try to be as fair-minded as I possibly can be. But yeah, Hars, the truth of the matter is, I think there's good things to the program and there's bad things to the program. So we'll see where it seems like the world is kind of taking a step away from it right now. And that's what I'm focusing on with the history. But yeah. All right. Let's see. Do we have more questions? I've kind of talked about the term limit thing, so I don't really need to get into it. Go ahead, Hars. We're happy to have you here. More questions, more topics, more things you guys want me to talk about. We're basically doing a makeup Q&A from yesterday. How am I doing? AI, that's so nice of you to ask how I am. I'm doing very, very well. How are you? I'm doing what I love. And if you do what you love, yes, you will work more than a day in your life, but you will enjoy it and you'll have a lot of fun. And this channel is a lot of fun for me. It's painstaking sometimes. It's difficult. There are times where I feel things really are going poorly and I'm not proud of what I'm doing. But there are other times when I absolutely love it. And this is one of the times where I absolutely love it. So thank you very much. We're having a really, really good conversation and a really good time. So really appreciate all of you showing up and spending your Sunday afternoon or early evening with me, wherever you are in the world. I'm just glad you're learning about history. And I'm glad I'm the one that can bring that to you. And like Gagik said, I'm trying to be the best YouTuber I possibly can. Harsonet. Oh, Mr. S, you're a farmer? Harsonet is asking, is the Electoral College an outdated and undemocratic system? Okay, so everybody doesn't... I get so tired of, not of your question, but of people's misunderstandings of the Electoral College that I hear all the time. No, the Electoral College was not made to protect white men. Yes, it was made by old white men, but people can make things without... Edison didn't invent the light bulb just to help white people. Or just because he was a white man. That's just, I just hate that so much. But that's a great question. The Electoral College wasn't made just so white people could protect their power. It was made so that there wouldn't be the founders liked democracy, but they didn't love it, and they believed that democracy wasn't the best system, and they believed that it was best that there was indirect election of presidents and vice presidents. So they actually originally created a system where people would vote for their president, would not where the popular vote wasn't counted. State legislatures would vote for electors, and those electors would vote for a president. So the people had even less democratic access to the presidential elections early on for electoral college. Later on, starting in the 1820s and eventually by the 1900s, the people voted, and their population, the popular vote of the state determines the winner of that state. The winner of that state receives certain electoral votes. And so the state of Pennsylvania has 17 congressional districts and 2 senators. So because of that, Pennsylvania has 19 electoral votes, and that was the big swing state in this last election. And I have a live stream lecture right before the election where I discussed all of these. The Electoral College is an indirect way that the popular vote is counted. It's just counted by states. And this way, states shift in their influence. Everybody says it only allows this state or that state. Well, states have shifted. Ohio used to be the premier electoral college state. Everyone wanted Ohio. 2008, 2012. Now it's solidly Republican. Florida, 2000 election. Gore versus Bush, decided by hundreds of votes in a state with millions of people. Big electoral swing state over the last 25 years. Now solidly Republican under Governor Ron DeSantis. Colorado used to be the premier swing state in the West, surrounded by the red wave and all those states. Now solidly Democratic under Governor Gerald Polis. The swing states, the states of electoral focus, do switch from election to election. When I was a kid, candidates would talk about ethanol when they went to Iowa. The Iowa caucuses are huge for primary season when they decide who's going to run for each party. But the truth of the matter is that now Iowa, nobody really cares about it because it's a Republican state. So, yeah, the Electoral College, the states of emphasis switch and change over time, and they grow and they fluctuate, and that's what the founders wanted. And so I don't think it's an outdated system. I understand why people have the complaints about the Electoral College that they do, but yeah, that's my opinion. And opinions are like navels. Everyone has one. Arsenet, was the Vietnam War a just war? No. And I've just been recently reading that Lyndon Johnson didn't even believe it was a just war. He was just doing what he thought was best to stop communism. Harsenet, was the use of atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki justified? No amount of mass killing is ever fully justified, I think. But the counterexample would have led to the United States invading Japan, and the Japanese were giving weapons to their children, to their young children, teenagers, and teaching them how to fight. The Japanese weren't going down even after all the islands had been taken, even after the firebombing of Tokyo and Kyoto. So, Harsenet, did westward expansion and Manifest Destiny have a negative impact on Native Americans? Absolutely it did. I mean, it displaced them. It led to them losing their land. The encounters with Europeans brought them diseases that they couldn't fight off, and most of them died through that. They lost their sovereignty, and it's a horrible thing. Did the Civil War truly resolve the issue of racial equality? No. It brought us forward, but it kicking and screaming as a country, but it didn't resolve it. Nithin, is there any reason other than that the Jews persecuted historically in Europe, like the negative intonations in Shakespeare, other than that they killed Christ in high-interest money lending? Yeah, I think what you're asking is, why are the Jews so heavily persecuted? I think it's because they refuse to assimilate and they're different. And the main assimilation issue for the Europeans was accepting Christianity, and the main assimilation issue in the Middle East under radical Islam is accepting Muhammad. And the Jews won't do that. They're going to live their own life in their own sovereign way. And yeah, thoughts on New York City. Started by the Dutch, New Amsterdam. So beautiful. I mean, in the Big Apple. So, Nathan, let me see here. Sabir, can you make a show on the FBI, the church comedy, and that comedy's connection to the Kennedy Cup? I'll have to learn about it, but I could definitely do a video on the FBI. And freshly, we were at 15 likes, so thank you so much for pumping the channel. Please be sure to tell all your friends and family and join us, and we'll make these live streams even bigger and more fun. Should America bring back the Monroe Doctrine? It kind of is. The neo-isolationism of the Trump administration. The Monroe Doctrine was written by President James Monroe, technically by the Secretary of State, John Quincy Adams, and it said that the United States would basically not tolerate Europeans colonizing the Western Hemisphere. And it was a isolationist doctrine, but it was the first time the U.S. addressed Europe as speaking on behalf of the Western Hemisphere. It's a huge moment in American history, and this young nation of only 50 years does it. It's just incredible. So, David, I'm very tired of everyone looking at history through the lens of race in today's politics, and not every country in the world has the same colonial history. Absolutely. And I mean it's important. It's part of that, and it needs to be addressed. And I do address it. I mean, I'm going to be doing videos this upcoming week about Black History Month. Next Sunday's live stream lecture will be about. Actually, it won't be in. Darn it! I should have done the live stream lecture on Black History Month this week. But I'm going to be doing videos, and I might do a live stream lecture on Black History Month, or at least African American history in the United States. It's a huge part of America's history and story in the West and all the world, really. But yeah, we everyone wants to look at history myopically and be very frustrated by it, and that's not the only way to do it. Hars is asking, could the Americans lose D-Day if Patton was demoted or punished for the slapping incident? Yes, but Patton didn't do much at D-Day. He only led the decoys that Hitler believed were going to land at Calais, which is why Normandy wasn't radically reinforced, which is why they lost. The Germans lost. Thank you, Ivan. You and Steve would definitely agree. Freshly Wild. This is why I'm a centralist Reagan Republican. And a dying breed, but an interesting one and a fascinating one. And Reagan, I have a video on Ronald Reagan. I've done a lot on Ronald Reagan. Obviously, a very, very high-ranking president. Do you like cheese? Absolutely. Swiss, probably my favorite. Freshly or centrist. Okay. David, say what you want. Having 2 or 3 parties is better than way of doing things than places like New Zealand, who has like 5. Yeah, there's a lot of countries with that multi-party system where they form coalition governments to make everybody happy. Bryson is saying people only dislike the Electoral College when it doesn't put their party in power. Yes, that's a very interesting, but it's a movement more from Democrats I've seen who want to get rid of it, but they weren't saying that in 2020. They were happy that the Electoral College helped Biden win. Steve, did all the hostages return back to Israel? No, and that's why the war could resume any moment. Albany, there you are. Yes, Spartacus, absolutely correct. In America, is American monetary support of the Ukraine a modern-day version of Marshall Plan? Freshly, that's a great question. The Marshall Plan was how the U.S. rebuilt Europe after World War II and prevented communism from spreading to Western Europe. Kind of, yes and no. It is a form of helping them, but it's also trying to stop Russia. So I guess you could say that. And Rodolfo, how tall I am. This I don't mind sharing. I'm 6 foot. Harson, do you like the concept of socialism? I don't like the concept of government owning everything. That form of socialism. The idea of everybody sharing everything and things being free. Who wouldn't like that? Yeah. So we are coming up on an hour, so I'm gonna wrap it up in a couple of minutes. But please put your questions in the chat. AI, great question. What is your favorite era of U.S. history? That's a great question. I love early America. I love the founding fathers. I love that era, and I know the most about that. So, yeah. Thomas, wait, what's up? Richard, how many times did the American voting system change? It used to be, they made a constitutional amendment to change this, but it used to be that the vice president was the runner-up in the Electoral College. So Thomas Jefferson was John Adams' vice president, even though he spent most of John Adams' term hating him. It's changed several times. 1804, it changed later in the 1800s. It's changed several times. Bryson, with the new peace talks, do you think the Russia-Ukraine war will end soon? Yes, I actually do. Akira Toriyama died. Please tell everyone about King Kamehameha. Oh, interesting. I don't know who Akira is, but King Kamehameha was the ruler of the Hawaiian Islands who in the 11th century reunited all of them together. What is your zip code and mother's maiden name? My zip code is 111111, and my mother's maiden name is Smith. There you go. Sabir, can you talk about Israel Hannibal Initiative during October 7th? I don't know what that is. Israel security detail was really lacking that day from what I understand, so maybe that refers to it. Yeah, the American Wild West is amazing. Opinion of Rutherford B. Hayes. Nice guy, tried to do the right thing, mediocre president, trusted the Confederates too much, basically forced to end Reconstruction when he really didn't want to. And really, of all of the presidents of that era, was at least the most radical in terms of civil rights. Believed blacks should basically be allowed to do whatever whites did. Which country benefited and influenced region more via the Sykes-Picot Agreement, France or England? I don't remember the Sykes-Picot Agreement. I would say England, just because England always ends up winning these things, but yeah. Thomas, can you tell us about your favorite historical facts from your favorite era? Oh, I'm talking about oh gosh, I love so many different historical eras. I mean, I'm a Russian historian and European historian by trade. I have my master's in history with my master's thesis was about Russia. Um, geez, Russia was started by Rurik, the Vikings, and the Vikings who intermarried with the Slavs. The first Russian capital was actually Kiev. Moscow rose to prominence in the 1300s because they were able to get all of the tribute and pay it to the Mongols. The Mongols controlled and dominated Russian politics and foreign affairs for 2.5 centuries. The term czar wasn't used until the 1500s. Delaware, again, I'm not going to say it. Interesting idea. Why is Russia mad at their neighbors? Because they believe their neighbors belong to them, and for a time that is true. What is my job? I'm a historian. There you go. I don't get into my personal life too much. I've taught and done stuff like that, but this is what I want to make my career. Oh yes. In that case, I think the British they got to tell the Saudis and the Iranians what to do, and were able to put their people there that made oil more accessible to them through the Saud family. That's why if you look at maps before 1930, they don't say Saudi Arabia, they say Arabia. It was named Saudi Arabia because of the Saud family. How did you use your college? To teach. That's how I use my college degree. Let me see here. Angel, have you made any videos about Hannibal invading Italy? A couple, actually. I did a video a couple weeks ago about the 3 different Punic Wars and Hannibal crossing the Alps with his elephants. Who were the pre-Viking Slavs? Were they related to the Celtics? No. The Vikings weren't. The Celts were their own group of people living in Northern Europe. I teach. That's how I make my money. Sabir, Hannibal Protocol by IDF on October is that kidnapping must be stopped by all means, even at the price of striking and harming our own force. Interesting. I don't believe they killed hundreds of their own people, but interesting nonetheless. Who is the greatest president of all time? Who's the GOAT president? Thomas is asking. It's hard. Well, I think Lincoln just is kind of the easiest default choice. Do you agree Oversimplified's new videos take too long to post? I like Oversimplified. I used him in classes with my students. My history channel, my go-to history channels on YouTube, other than this channel, obviously, and other than, I hope it's your go-to channel too, that's what I wanted. I wanted to be a college professor, and maybe I will be, but this channel is just, I fall in love with it more and more every day. But basically, my go-to channels, Oversimplified is good. There's also Spectrum. He does good stuff. He doesn't post that often, though. If I want to learn about monarchies and European history, I'll go to T with Lindsay Holiday. She's amazing. But my favorite, and Epimetheus does an amazing job. He describes individual countries and their history. But my favorite all time is History Matters. They're fun, they're sarcastic, and they're British. You can't hate them. They're incredible. So when you're done watching all of my new videos that are dropping, like tomorrow, check out at 8 p.m. Eastern my long-form video dropping about Christianity in Japan. And check out my latest video about Alexander the Great. And my President's Day video has been a big hit. Go back and watch some History Matters because they're really great. Yeah, Christian, it's this interesting thing where we're going back and forth between owning and who owns it and who has the right to control it. When did you start being interested in history? I was like 6, and I went to the library with my mom, and I went into the nonfiction section, and I found books on the presidents, and I decided to memorize all of them. And here we are. That was a while ago. I love a legacy smoking jacket. Any chance of silk pajamas? That'd be fun. I don't know if I would ever wear it. I maybe make a video of it. There are times, this may be TMI, but I wake up, I wake up and I just have to throw a shirt on to make a video. And I'm like, can I just do the video without my shirt on? But then that just feels a little distasteful. And I feel like it'd be too distracting and self-indulgent. Yes, I am a history. Yes, it is crazy. I'm a history teacher. Search it on the internet and many news sources from Israel. Yes, I've heard about the security leaks. I've heard about them preventing people from being kidnapped. I've done a lot of studying on October 7th. It's the October 7th war, after all. What's your absolute favorite? What's your thought on absolute monarchies aren't around anymore? On why they aren't around? Well, Kevin, I don't think that they're around anymore because people eventually realize that we don't have to just do whatever a king says just because he was related to a great person who helped our country form, or he was related to someone who was related to that. And that's actually what changed the narrative. Um, yeah. Freshly, Hartsonett's a decent person. Freshly's a decent person. I appreciate both of you so much. Sabir, there are many victims in Israel that they decide their own army attacked them. Interesting. I wouldn't be surprised. Lavon affair, the USS Liberty. It's happened before. I lost my sound every time I ask a question. Oh, I'm sorry. Sabir, I hope you can hear my answer and what I'm saying. Yeah, Christian, I don't know what you're talking about. We're over an hour. Sorry, guys, I'm tired. But we're over an hour. Hopefully, you guys all really enjoyed this, and make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Check out my short and long form content that drops daily, and twice a week I've got longer videos. Yeah, it's 65 minutes. Yep. But I will be seeing you guys soon. Join us Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays for the live streams and all of that stuff. The next stream is Friday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I will be doing Q&A and answering all your questions. Yes. I see, Christian. Sorry, that's interesting how you talk. Your mount must be interesting. But thank you very much, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed the channel. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out that content. And I will see you guys again Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another Q&A. Then we'll do Saturday, and then we'll actually have a live stream lecture next Sunday. So it'll be a lot of fun. Take care, and I hope you all have a wonderful week. And remember, love history. Bye-bye now.